This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
I was trying to get it how I live. I want them dead presidents. I want to pull up, head spin, get fly. I got 6 jobs. I don't get it. I don't get it.
And we are still not tired on episode number 30 of Two Bad Hombres. I am your host, Vito-Jerome Churko, alongside my usual sidekick and partner in crime. That is the Doc from Doc and Jock, John Charles Macaroon. John, how's it going?
Vito, welcome to the weekend. Always enjoy our conversations. What do you got going on? In the pre-show meeting, you were telling me you got big plans this weekend.
I do. I'm going to Chicago to see my buddy Nick Schmigel. I hate always having to bring up his name. It's his brother, though. He goes to DePaul in Chicago, and he has an apartment over there in a nice area. I'm going to see him, to be entertained by him in ways that are not the ways that you're thinking of. Okay, so get your mind out of the gutter, everybody listening. And Doc, if you heard what I just said, I don't know if you did, but ain't the way that you think it is that he's entertaining me. He's entertaining me with his company and his hospitality. So
how old were you when you lost your virginity?
I don't think he'll be asking me that. I don't think I'll be asking him that or anybody that over this weekend in Chicago. 2 nights that I will be spending in Chicago, too.
Very nice. How are things with you and Nick? Everything's cool? You guys are still boys?
Good. Yeah, we're doing well. Yeah, despite this or that here and there, you know, a stumbling block once in a while, a challenge, you know, in the way. But no, we're still really good buddies.
How would you rate this summer so far? It seems like it's gone by really fast. I know we're into early August, but football's about to start.
Yes, it
college
is.
Football, college basketball is going to kick off in early October. But at the same time, I sit here and reflect on it, and I go, my goodness, this summer's gone by kind of fast.
I think for me, too, it's really gone fast because last summer I did the Somebody Football Academy tour where I went to 6 different campsites throughout the nation. So for me this year, we just had the one camp here in Detroit in the Midwest at Grand Valley State, actually, unlike last year where it was at Wayne State. So, and a little plug for that, I'll be at a I was at a Somebody Football Media Day, actually, this past week, and it went really well. A lot of kids, over 150 Metro Detroit student athletes showed up at the UAW Ford headquarters for Somebody Football Media Day.
Very interesting. I want to bring this up, and I know we didn't get a chance to talk about it fully in our pre-show meeting, but what is your take on some of the studies that have been done talking about CTE in football players? Because 2 years ago, I brought up to Adam my concern when some NFL football players started retiring early. And I said, Adam, I think there's a concern here that football might not be around in the next 50 years because of the traumatic nature of the injuries that a lot of the players are having, brain injuries, the severe nature of how these guys are living after walking away from professional football. And it got us to kind of talking about the future of football, whether or not Adam or I, if we had sons, would let our sons play football. I just wanted to get your take on it because I know a lot of youth play football, but at the same time, I say to myself, it's a dangerous sport. And I know they're trying to make it safer, but football is a violent sport. It's a tough one out there as opposed to baseball, basketball, where you can still walk away with your health after playing a violent sport.
I'll just say this, too. I don't think if I ever have a kid, my little person kid, I might have a little person kid like me. I don't think he's going to be playing football. Now, he might be playing baseball. I always play baseball. Despite my limited size, whatever you want to call it, I wasn't really affected by it, and it was safe for me playing baseball. Yeah, football's not safe for anybody. You're right, and there are the CTE symptoms, and then it kind of sags into something else I wanted to bring up with you that I just thought of because of that discussion you brought up, Doc, and it's Jamal Adams of the Jets, what he brought up, and I think you wanted to maybe get into that yourself. He said he was willing to die on the field, and some media members were taken aback by it and didn't like those remarks, and he had to apologize. Todd Boyles, his head coach with the New York Jets, said he had to go out there and apologize. He did, took care of business, handled it in the right manner from all that I, got in terms of what I heard regarding his remarks when he apologized. But the thing is, he didn't mean it. He didn't literally mean, I'm going to die on the field. And then it gets mixed in with this CTE talk, and it makes him look bad for his remarks. When I think he was... Okay, so maybe he had a little lapse of judgment, but this seems like a guy that is pretty much ahead of the game and knows what's coming out of his mouth before he says it. So I give him credit for being that kind of guy, it seems like, and also for, I guess, having to go through the apologizing. Well, I don't think it was totally warranted, but you knew something had to be done. And I think it was more man of him, right? More professional of him to handle his business in that manner.
See, I didn't take it as offensive at all because he's young. He doesn't have a lot of life behind him, having kids and things like that. He's a young guy, a rookie about to enter into the NFL. One thing people have to realize is this is something that every kid dreams about that wants to get into the NFL. To play, to be a part of a team, be a part of a roster, make good money. And so for him being young, I don't punish him for it. He doesn't have life's perspective. Now, when he gets older, when he has a family, when he's got other things to live for besides football, or when maybe he kind of is in that situation where the team is like, look, we want you to take less money, or we're going to cut you, he might start realizing the business nature of it and that maybe you can't be ride or die. But the attitude that you got to have to be the top professional in your field, you got to have it. You got to have a sense of ego. You got to have a sense of love for the game. And for people to criticize Adams for showing his love and passion for football, yes, when you look at it, there are other things out there that you can live for, and you don't have to die to play football. But I love the passion because, in my opinion, as a psychologist, if you ask the question, how do you become the top at anything you do? You have to kind of have a sacrifice. You have to have a passion, a one-track mind in order to get you where you got to go. So to play football, to play a violent sport, to play a sport where you could be, running and all of a sudden, boom, your knee's out and you blow out your knee and blow out your ACL. At any given moment, here today, gone tomorrow, I truly respect his passion and say that, yes, players should be willing to go all out if their goal is greatness. And that's something I think the old school football players are starting to notice is when you sign a $12 million signing bonus and you get all this money, that's why some of these guys are retiring early because they don't need to play anymore. They don't have that love and passion. All you got to do is throw up a guy like Tom Brady, a guy who took less money to play football, a guy that right now, as we're recording this, is watching film, breaking down the tendencies of their first opponent week 1. That's a guy that you would honestly say and look at probably loves and would die on the football field. Everybody else, you would say, well, there's different degrees of motivation that they have. Some for money, some for fame, some for the side action you get on the side when you go city to city. Everybody has their different views. But to attack Adams for having the passion and love to play football, I do think it's people wanting to get offended at something that they should not be offended about at all.
Trying to make a story out of nothing, right? And maybe those are the liberals. Those are the snowflakes. Remember, you call me, I'm going to go back to that, the liberal snowflake. That's a real snowflake. Those media members are snowflakes. Or they're being paid, I guess, to tell a story that's not really a story because maybe their sports editor, the leading editor at their respective newspaper or website is saying, let's make a story out of this. Let's run with it because of clickbait. This is the problem with clickbait, right? Because it leads to hits for your website, for your, traffic to your newspaper, to your print product. The thing is, though, is it a legitimate story, journalistically speaking? It really isn't because there's not much merit to it because he didn't really mean what he said. He meant that you have to have that killer instinct, which is what you were getting at. And it's why Tom Brady's still playing at 40, right? He just turned 40 this past week. He's still playing football at a high level because of the fact that he has that killer instinct. Now, he's not going to die out on the football field, and you know what? You don't want to say that. But you know what? Guys think it. So him saying it, a little lapse of judgment, but should we, get so worked up about it? I don't think it was warranted. Doug.
I viewed it, I was proud of him. I'm like, yeah, that's a guy I want on my team, a ride or die guy. I want 52 of those guys for the Lions because I think it's going to take not only 52 guys, but a whole entire organization to lift whatever it is. Some call it a curse. Some call it a malaise, bad luck, whatever it is that's affecting the Lions. They need an organizational philosophy of like ride or die. Let's go. And so when I heard the news, I was totally in line with it. I understood the metaphor. No, he doesn't want to go out there and get a hit and die so that his family can grieve and he's not around anymore. But what he means is I'm going to give my focus, my passion, my waking thoughts. Instead of going out to the strip club after a game, I'm going to get back home, get back into the office and get back into the complex where there's such great film and great facilities and get back to learning about my craft. And so that's why I totally am in line with what Adam said. And I think that's what it takes to be successful. There is no other way, I think, in order to be successful. But do you think that this whole CTE thing is being overblown? Because, if you take a step back, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realize that when you bang bodies against another human being, that there's a chance that it's not really the best for you. So now we're actually learning what the actual damage is, which is brain lesions, CTE, and what it can do to you. I'm not that surprised that playing football could be a detriment to your health. I'm not that surprised at all because I'm watching guys getting crunched, and it can't be great for your health to be a lineman or to get tackled over and over and over, especially for a lot of years. But the big thing that people are definitely looking at is how much did the NFL know and how much were they trying to cover up to save some money. That's where the big storyline is. But CTE is a big deal. I'm just wondering if it's something that's being way overblown and talked about in order to curb or limit the great success of the National Football League, a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Well, remember this, a recent study revealed that 110 of 111 brains donated by NFL players did reveal signs of CTE. And then Goodell comes out. I think this is ludicrous. This is why he gets called a clown and why Barstool Sports is ordering all these, I think, clown towels now for Gillette Stadium for opening night, the big opening game of the NFL season with the Patriots being honored with their Super Bowl rings for winning this, past year's Super Bowl and whatnot. And this is why he's called a clown, why he's labeled as that. And look at this quote that he said. The average NFL player lives 5 years longer than you, Goodell said. So their lifespan is actually longer and healthier. And then he made another,
He cites a study that was done, but it was done on players, I think, up until 93. So he's not dealing with current players. It was a study done on older players and things like that.
And then he said, I think because of all the advancements, including the medical care, that number is going to even increase for them. And maybe there are medical advancements to help out with these NFL players while they're playing and after their playing careers do come to an end. And I think really what is maybe helping out these players and maybe will help them out later in life, and we can't measure how much it's going to help them out yet because it hasn't happened, but maybe 20 years from now, some of these players will be living longer, won't be suffering from CTE symptoms because of the fact that they're retiring now much more earlier on, after 3 years or so, which is smart. You collect your pension, I think, after 3 years, you get the hell out of there, and you have the rest of your life to devote to your wife and to your kids, and it's something else.
On the fly here, Vito, debuting a new segment. President Vito. What would President Vito do in regards to the National Football League, in regards to the health of the players and CTE? You're the president of the United States. You're the guy, not Donald Trump. You're the guy overseeing it, maybe peeking in a little bit. You're having a chum-chum meeting with Roger Goodell. You're kind of slipping each other some cash, some notes, some business ideas. You're kind of looking at him and going, oh, you made $42 million last year. Not too bad. I'm doing some pretty good things over here on the side. Come check out my nice White House. Come over here. Check out my nice airplane. Look at how much I'm doing on the side here. Look how much the lobbyists are paying me, $42 million. I get that off a cigarette lobby. Come on now. President Vito, what does he do in regards to the NFL and the CTE notion?
Well, I'm just so glad that Trump is removed from office in this scenario, too, so I'll just say that much. If I had to deal with this issue, it's a big-time issue, a lot to weigh. I would say, well, I think you just offer these guys as much as they want in terms of, well, after they're done playing and their pensions, you increase all the medical care that you can offer to them while they're playing, after their playing careers are over with. You give them the best of the best in terms of that, because if you're making that much money, and if the NFL is truly a multi-billion-dollar business, which we believe it is, well, and it's going to keep making more and more money, money's just pouring in, well, guess what? You can afford, right, to pay these guys really what they want. So whatever they're demanding in terms of health care, health insurance, I say you have to offer it to them. And then you look a lot better anyways. You protect your behind a lot more by doing that. If you're doing everything possible, at least it seems like you would be doing everything possible for the players. If you are, from the players' perspective, then why would they ever get angry at you, right? It would be a lot harder for them to protest you, to say bad stuff about you, and then you have a brighter image, right? In the media's eye, in the players' eyes, and in the public, public limelight.
So what you're saying is you just would give them money. You throw money at the problem.
I would say if they really, whenever they need something, I say you have to offer it to these guys. Well, like, you increase what they can gain through their pensions. Whatever is offered now, and I don't know this, that's why I'm not going to speak totally on it, on what's actually in the pensions. But, you enhance their health insurance, their health care coverage. You enhance all of that to the best possible degree that you can. And you give it to the players because they do deserve it. They do, these guys. After all that they're putting their bodies through, for you to make that much money per season, I think it's warranted for the players to get that from the commissioner, from the league. It would be, from the league, obviously.
To play devil's advocate, the reason why I'm paying you so much money, upwards of $3-4 million a year, You can't figure out how to pay for the insurance yourself, realizing that you can't allocate some of your money to healthcare, to potential surgeries that you're going to need, to maybe a health savings account. You can't give the personal responsibility to the person playing. You're gonna.
Oh, you're saying it should be on the player, just on the individual. So you're saying, hey, hands off to Goodell. He doesn't have to worry about it. Doesn't have to care. The NFL doesn't have to care. Are you saying that much about the NFL? If I was a commissioner,
if I'm
the
Roger
president,
Goodell, if I'm Roger Goodell, I'm coming back and going, man.
What would you say?
The owners are not going to like this because let's just say every player wants $1 million. Now you're talking about potentially $700, $800 million a year extra in bills, man. You're gonna get me fired by the owners. See, what if the pushback is, look, we're giving these guys millions. They can't allocate $1 million for their health and for their future needs because we already give them a pension. You want to just keep giving them more money? How much is enough? Because look, Johnny Macaroon over there at the Lions, he's a complainer. He wants $8 million for his health. See, Vito, I caught you there.
Well, the owners will protest. It will.
Yep.
But you know what? You got to help out the players as much as you can. I said as much as you can, by the way.
Yes.
But that's the thing that you would protest.
You're getting closer.
And you should protest.
The answer is you got to.
I don't know how much money.
You got to put money in investments in prevention. You got to say, look, playing football is violent. You're going to play a sport that might take years off your life, but you're entering into this knowingly.
Yeah.
No one's forcing you to play NFL football. You're signing a contract, and the contract is you're going to play football at your absolute best. We're going to compensate you with millions of dollars, but we're going to spend and allocate the league 4% of yearly revenue into helmets, into proper tackling, into preventing these guys from sustained injury, and also preventing them from failing financially, teaching them how to save their money, how to allocate, save their money, and possibly empower themselves to take care of themselves. Meaning, don't spend all your money in your 20s balling out, buying 8 cars, buying 8 houses, having 5 kids with 5 wives, and having different, payments out there so that when it's time to retire, you're broke. So you take that contract at 34 years old for $600,000 to pay off some of your bills. You can retire. And I would say, look, I want my players to play football from the age of 21 to 30 and try my best to teach them all to retire by that age because it's a young man's game. And there's some guys that are hanging on because they have too many bills and they plan poorly. That increases the risk of playing prolonged football that could injure them. So I'm investing the money a lot less, Vito, than what you want to pay the players. I want to invest in prevention all the way down from tyke football, youth football, AYSO, all the way up to NFL football. We're going to invest in prevention. And while, yes, there is going to be a strong risk that these guys get CTE, but it's a risky sport. This is not a sport where you enter into it lightly, but we'll try our best to lay the foundation for these guys to be healthy. And then we got to continue to do research.
And shouldn't that study to make these players aware that if they do go and play football, their lives are at risk? They're at risk of suffering CTE. And I guess you make them aware of that, but isn't a study like that? And I guess you got to give them the facts straight up. And how they have the rookie symposium? They deal with issues after football. They talk to the rookies about how to handle themselves off the field, what to do with their money, how to handle it the right way. I think also what to tweet out, what not to tweet out, right? How to be smart, socially, financially, fiscally, like you talked about, fiscally savvy. You got to become that fiscally responsible. These players have to, but don't they speak about that in the rookie symposiums too?
But
they
you got to remember too that some former players got up there, a la Chris Carter.
He answered the wrong message.
And he said, "Yo, find your fall guy."
I'm a fall guy. I remember that. Yeah,
you're my fall guy. So when we go out, you take the fall while I booze up and hit on all the women.
Right? And you can get away with it because you have a fall guy. So there are bad messages. That's a horrible message to give to a rookie who's just getting into the league.
But all in all, the issue is being talked about. And I do think football will be around, but you're going to see the athletes try to get out by 27, 28 years old. Just play 5 years, save your money. Dude, if you make a bunch of money early on, you get that second contract. By the time you're 30 years old, you shouldn't want to be banging your body that long. You should try to retire by 29, 30 years old, start the next phase of your life, and you'll be much more happier. I think a lot more guys are going to retire.
And you see it already, the trend starting where players are retiring after 3 years.
Football is a young man's sport.
Yeah.
22 to 30, that's it. And you look at it and you want to sustain the sport that's really popular. And I'm excited for it to kick off, man. The Hall of Fame game was Thursday. I'm excited to watch football after this week. There'll be no weekends without football, baby, till the end of the year.
And really quick, especially if you make your money and then you gain a Super Bowl ring on top of that, you should get out before you're 30. You really should. But then you have a guy like Tom Brady, the exception of the rule, who's still playing at 40 years old. I think you have 3 kickers and 1 punter still in the league as well. at 40 years of age at least. So not many make it there. And you don't want to try to play until you're 40 because that's a bad sign, like you said. That means you have some bills to pay because you lost some money through maybe some risky maneuvering with the friend, right? Or just a bad financial manager setting you up to fail because he or she's making all the money from you actually in your contract when you should be the one making it for what you're doing on the football field, not that guy that's just the outsider looking in on your finances and trying to help you out to prevent something like that, big time failure from happening, and instead he or she screws you over. And that can happen. We see that happen too much, and hopefully through these rookie symposiums, Doc, what you and I talked about, it does help out these players to find out how to be fiscally responsible and how to be socially responsible too, because we see a lot of these guys end up in bad situations too often.
All right, Vito, great talk. Always enjoy talking football. Gets me riled up. But the first round of President Vito, I like it. I like to see how your brain operates. And I like the fact that I can pick apart a little bit to make you, down the line as we progress with this, a more refined president. Okay?
So
far,
thank
so good.
you. I appreciate that.
You're still on the candidate kind of level, still kind of in the meeting phase. I'm going to shape you into a great president. So I like that debut edition of President Vito. Not too bad.
Awesome. And we'll take a commercial break with that being said on episode number 30 of Two Bad Hombres.
Vito, I want to tell you about our host site, Podomatic. When Adam and I first started this project, we were looking for a place to host all of our recorded audio. And thank goodness we found Podomatic. Very easy to generate links. All of our supporters can find each and every show that we record because we have a great host site. If you're starting a brand new podcast, a brand new project, and you want a great host site that can provide you with limitless opportunities to grow an audience and have success, we recommend one host site, Podomatic.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah, that's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Doc, back here in episode number 30 of Two Bad Hombres. I now know a surgery that you probably won't be undergoing. It is called the penis enhancement surgery. I think you won't be because a man now has died after it went wrong for him.
Unfortunately, Vito, for you, you can't assume I had one 5 years ago.
Oh, you already did?
Yep.
That's why you're so cocky and you feel like you're ballsy all the time now. Legitimately ballsy. More ballsy than you used to be.
No doubt about it. You know, I was in a situation where I was pretty endowed already, but I wanted
you were? Oh,
yes.
I'm glad you cleared that up because we were wondering, you know?
Yes, and at the same time, I wanted to potentially reach out and even go bigger for my own ego, and I had the surgery, and it was very successful. Everybody, including my wife, all the girlfriends after, have been very satisfied.
All the girlfriends after the wife? Did you say after the wife? What did you mean? You mean after the surgery.
Here's what happens.
And then your wife.
Here's what happens. Everybody talks. So once people started getting wind of it, they wanted to see it. And I wasn't shy.
People were just lining up, probably in your driveway.
Exactly.
Right?
And so that's the biggest thing that, you know, a guy can really hang his hat on is like, look, if he's got a nice package, women talk. So, you know, I'd get some random Snapchats here and there and being like, you know, da-da-da, kind of going around it. But people wanted to see it. So, you know, I wasn't shy. So I showed everybody.
Hanging your hat on a head different from, well, the head that we see every single day when we walk around.
All right, Vito, I'm just kidding around, but this is a crazy story.
It is.
Listen, I'm a guy that's confident in what I have, my limitations. I'm short, bald, a little bit overweight, but at the same time, I love life. I laugh at myself. I laugh at all the dumb things I do and say. But at the same time, I think people do realize it's just all in good fun. I like to laugh, and that I've dedicated my life to helping people through the mental health field. But at the same time, I do get a chance to enjoy interesting stories from what you heard. But someone died. What happened?
Well, I'll read about it here. Now, the Free Press, I got this from the Free Press, and USA Today Network and the Free Press does get stories from USA Today, both being owned by Gannett, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it says that the 30-year-old relatively healthy patient wanted a penile elongation and girth enhancement surgery, which includes transferring fat from one area of the body and replacing it in the penis. Surgeons finished the elongation part of the procedure and were in the process of injecting the patient with transferred fat when the man started experiencing complications. According to a report in the Journal of Forensic Sciences. The man's heart began to race and his blood pressure dropped abnormally low, according to the report. The patient, who did not have a prior heart condition, went into cardiac arrest and died a little over an hour later, according to the report. And an autopsy later revealed that the patient died from a pulmonary fat embolism, when fat traveled the bloodstream to his lungs and ruptured blood vessels. So there are risks. There always is a risk of something going awry. And this is what happened with this man's procedure. Now, most of the time, it's not going to happen. But still, then it comes to the matter of, well, how much is too much of these procedures, right?
Look, Vito, the whole notion of cosmetic surgery is something that we can talk about because people want to be happy.
Yeah.
This is a free country. But if that's a risk of that surgery, that you could die, to have a pulmonary embolism and die, I'm not taking that risk, man. It's not worth it. I mean, you use what you got. That's what I would say.
Use the pencil that God gave you to use, okay?
No doubt about it. I just don't see myself ever really getting cosmetic surgery. I know it's a huge field. I know that people do want to make themselves look young forever, especially women. But at the same time, it's not for me. I'm just a guy that appreciates what God gave me, and I'm pretty happy with where it's at. But if I read that there's a chance you could have a pulmonary embolism, and it doesn't seem like it's a mistake. It's just a random occurrence, a freak accident.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of unusual for someone to have that, but at the same time, imagine that if that's what you got to tell your family, that you passed away having penile implant surgery. That's just, it's really tough to accept if you're a family member or a surviving member of that family, or if you're a friend of the guy. It's unfortunate all the way around that he passed away trying to, raise his girth. It's really
not worth it. I don't think it's worth it when you can die, like you said, Doc, and then you have to go through telling people, your loved ones, relatives, friends of his, that he died going through that. And the family probably knew, close family members, close friends probably knew he was going through that procedure. But the thing is, that's hard to tell people that that's why you died. Obviously, too, you always have to deal with people that think it's shoddy of you and that you're egotistical. If you're trying to get a surgery done like this to enhance your physical appearance or some part of your body like that to get a little more girth, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where, it leads to that discussion, too. Well, we already talked about when is too much, too much. This is probably too much right here. This is crossing the line because you really don't need to go through this. And then when the risk is that you could die in the rarest of rare instances, but still it happened to a man who probably did not think it was going to happen.
Was he in his 50s? How old was he?
Let's see. I think it did at the very top of the article. A 30-year-old, yes.
30.
Who was relatively healthy prior to this procedure, too, once again.
Man, so it's a freak accident, cosmetic surgery claimed to life, and it's unfortunate, but hey, that's in life in a free society.
You can do it, though, right?
Any surgery.
And then it can happen.
Risk. Yeah, you could get anesthesia, and you might not wake up from it. Anytime you go through anesthesia, they tell you there is a small risk that something could happen, so it's unfortunate all the way around, and I know we make light of it, but it is really sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad, man. So when are you signing up for yours?
You know what? I've been thinking about it for the last week since I saw this story. Actually, I was going to do it before I saw this story, and now I've canceled my visit.
Okay.
I had a consultation actually with the doctor about this penis elongation and girth enhancement, and now I'm not going to do it. But like you said, you know what? All joking aside, when you go under the knife, right, it's always risky business.
No doubt about it. This is why I'm thankful for my health every single day.
And you're thankful for what you have below your waist, right?
No doubt about
you're
it.
happy for what you have with your body in totality, right? Even your receding hairline, you're happy about that.
No complaints in any department, my friend.
Good.
That's why.
Good for you.
That's the attitude or perspective that I have. I don't focus on the notion that the grass is always greener on the other side. I just appreciate the grass that I got, and it's all good.
Really quick, let me ask you now, it's been a big discussion lately because we've seen a few frontmen from bands pass away from suicide. And there is a talk about mental depression now more and more, and how should it be revealed to the public that you have it, that you're dealing with it? Should it be more open, and spoken about? What is your stance on that as a psychologist too, Doc?
Before I answer, give me the take of the articles that you were reading. Were they saying that, these front men should have come out before and kind of revealed? Should they have come out and revealed to their family or friends that they were depressed so that they might not have been in that situation to commit suicide? Is that kind of the thesis of what was talked about in the articles?
Well, I think it should be talked about in the open, and people, these articles as well, these journalists, reporters, people penning pieces about it, let's say, yeah, they have talked about maybe it should be more of an open topic because maybe it would alleviate these suicides from happening to people that are battling mental depression. And it is a disease, it's a real disease, and people don't realize that it can be that brutal. that catastrophic that it could end in suicide, because mental depression, is a legitimate thing that people have to deal with. And actually, I dealt with this as well recently, going to the funeral for somebody who committed suicide, a friend's mom, a friend from high school's mom. So it's a thing that I think affects all of us. And I think the stat nowadays is that 1 in 7 people know somebody that is going through depression, is suicidal, and you don't want anybody to pull the trigger on suicide. And that's why I think you should be open about talking about the issue before it becomes that catastrophic of a thing, right, Doc?
No doubt about it. And the tough part is when you deal with depression, one of the markers, one of the key signs of being depressed is social isolation. You don't want to be around people. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to feel like you're bringing everybody down. But the reality is, if you need help, you definitely need to go out there and seek professional help. Be on a combination of medicine and therapy. Try and figure out life's problems. But depression is real, and it does take the lives of people very young. It's very debilitating. It's an up and down battle because it might hit you at the worst possible times when you're potentially having great success in your career, great success in your relationships. It does hit. And a lot of times when people come in and they start talking about what's been going on, the first thing I do is just listen. Just listen to the person talking about what's been going on, how they perceived it, how they reacted to it. And you're right, just by talking about it, there is some value therapeutically in trying to help. But the first step, Vito, is the hardest, which is walking through the front door. And so that's why I'm thankful for any new client that I work with or somebody that does take advantage of seeking mental health services. I say to myself, look, you've done the hardest part. The hardest part of the job is walking through the door and making the appointment. The rest, I'm going to help guide you, and we're going to help you learn about yourself and how you can cope better with life's problems, about your perspective, about potentially maybe getting on medications if you need it. But at the same time, you have to respect what major depression can do to somebody. And I don't blame victims. If somebody gets to the
you
point,
can't ever blame the victim.
I don't ever blame somebody who's depressed, who maybe just has tried everything. You don't know. Maybe these guys have been in therapy and some of these band performers that have committed suicide have maybe been in therapy for a long time, and they just come to the end of the road and they say, look, my life here on earth has been marked by suffering and pain. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So, you never really get a chance to talk to somebody who's committed suicide to get what they're thinking. But at the same time, you realize that for somebody to feel hopeless, to feel like there's nothing else left to live for, you now realize the powerful impact that depression can have, because that's one of the big markers, hopelessness. You can't preach it enough to somebody that there's hope. If somebody feels hopeless and they've given up, it's really hard. I mean, I've tried. I've spent my life, 15 years, helping people with depression. And you see me, I'm happy, bubbly. I'm full of life and energy, very funny, very sarcastic, very engaging.
You said very funny?
Very funny.
Only sometimes.
Yes, all the time. And so even with all that, sometimes I'm talking to people, presenting different opportunities and ways to deal with depression that have been known to help. And yet, as the person staring back at me has that look like, I'm starting to give up. And it's really hard. You got to really fight. You got to find anything. It can be just, the very basic notion of just one more day. Give me one more day. Try something new. Maybe this is going to turn around. But hopelessness is really bad. And sometimes, luckily for me, in my work, I've never had a patient commit suicide and never had to address it like that. But at the same time, I've dealt with people that I've had to put in the hospital because of the fact that they were suicidal and they had ideations. And it's a tough thing. And, when you look at mental health, it's just so important, so imperative that if you can get help, make it a lifelong journey, make it an investment. And I'll tell you, you should invest in therapy, even if you're okay, because guess what? You can even refine and do things better. Meaning, when a certain podcast host will ask you to do something, maybe you do it a little bit faster, or maybe you make that extra call, or you make that extra perspective. You do something a little better than
you can gain a better perspective. Honestly,
Yes.
it all, kidding aside once again, you can gain that better perspective on life, maybe.
Yeah.
That additional perspective you never had.
Time management, stress management. Maybe you gain some insights into, wow, I'm doing a podcast with this idiot, and I could be doing it somewhere else for a lot more money.
I can find out finally that, yes, it's time for me to move on from you.
Yeah, exactly. You could wake up and realize, damn.
Wake up and smell the roses somewhere else, baby.
I'm doing all the work, and he's getting all the money. This is great.
You're getting all the attention, all the fame. I'm not getting any of it. I'm fed up.
Exactly. So
But anyways, back to your relevant point about depression.
Yeah, the relevant point about depression is if you can get help, definitely take advantage. And I know one of the big things in the country is access to mental health. Sometimes psychologists have to do a better job of providing their services at a more affordable cost, within reason to help people come, because if Medicaid gets cut and people lose access to mental health benefits, you might be seeing a whole heck of a lot more situations where mental health could be not being dealt with properly. And I'm fearful of that if the current situation with how the healthcare is looking, a lot of people that might be taking advantage of mental health and getting the help might lose it. So I'm always advocating, always raising funds, always raising awareness. And I always tell people, if you can just suggest therapy, it's not like what it's portrayed in the movies. It's not white-haired dudes sitting around a couch and having you lay down and chanting. It's not that. It's a conversation like you're listening to right now. And I hope that I can portray that through the podcast airwaves, that therapy is worth investing in. And hey, just like in life, if you find a therapist that you have a connection with, take advantage. And if you have a therapist that you don't have a connection with, find another one. You're not locked into seeing a therapist. Trust me, I've been fired before. I've had people say, look, it's not a right fit, and I can accept that. And I've told patients, too, that I've worked with, I don't think this is a right fit here. I think you need somebody a little bit more stern, or you need somebody a little bit way hands-off, that this might not be a proper fit. So just like in anything else, if you feel like it's a great fit, I've had clients that have been working with me for years, and I'm grateful that they've taken advantage of it. And they say, wow, I never thought about investing in therapy for multiple years. Because you learn about yourself. You learn that as things change, how you feel about it. And you learn like, oh, let me see how it feels to implement some of these changes. How does it feel when I'm depressed to cope with it? How do I feel when I'm happier? How do I live my life when I'm doing things very well and having success? How's that suit me? Because sometimes people even get anxious when they make changes because they're not used to it. Like, people are treating me differently. I'm hanging out more. I'm going out to the clubs more. I'm getting more attention from the opposite sex. They don't know how to handle it. So sometimes the way I describe it is it's an investment. And what better investment can you make than in yourself? So I'm thankful that people have taken that journey. And as people know who follow this network, I'm a psychologist. I do it full time. And I use the podcast as an avenue of also stress relief for me, because I get a chance to talk to you guys, talk about sports, talk about life, laugh a little bit. And it helps me to, continue going forward. It makes me a better psychologist.
So we lost Chester Bennington of Lincoln Park and Chris Cornell of Soundgarden to suicide recently. Two tragic losses there in the music industry and just in life in general. And whenever somebody is dealing with depression, I think it has to be known and told to these people dealing with it, Doc, that there are other people like you out there. It affects everybody too. And even if on the outside it seems like you're all warm and fuzzy and enjoying life, that person might be, when he or she goes home, not the same person, and much more, well, just depressed and not dealing with life the best. And that's why always, too, I think you have to be friendly to others. Remember, that first impression, that can change a person's day, maybe change a person's life, turn it around as well. I mean, think about that. Be friendly. Be a friend to somebody who maybe is sitting by him or herself. Go over there, right? And see what that person has to offer, because until you get to know that person, right, how can you judge a book by its cover? You can't. And that's why that saying is very legit, in my opinion, as it was for me when I was younger. And I think it still applies to people as they get older, as I get older, Doc, as you get older. You're an old man now, but I think it's still applicable to you, right? That you can't judge a book by its cover.
No doubt about it. And the first thing that you said there and raised my eyebrows, because sometimes when you're focusing on yourself and you realize, wow, I'm not happy, one way to make yourself feel a lot better and to change your perspective a little bit, go out there and do something nice, a random act of kindness for somebody else. There's so much value in that. Helping others can turn it around for you, and that you get a chance to see the joy that you helped create. And so you're absolutely right. Be part of the solution. Be nice to people. Smile. Be happy. And if you are feeling down, start with also helping somebody else out. Help them feel better too. And see if you don't gain a little bit of perspective and knowledge and love and passion for the reaction that you get by making somebody else happy. And that's why I love doing the podcast too, is I get to make you happy by giving you some cash. And that's what seems to only make you happy.
And by not paying me enough sometimes too, which doesn't make me happy.
Well, no, I'm trying to work on your greed, because you're greedy. You're greedy.
Oh, that's what it is. So it's about me being greedy, not you being cheap. It's the opposite way around. You'll flip it on me.
You're a greedy little Italian guy, of course.
Oh, that's what it is. I'm Italian. I'm a greedy little Italian guy. Look at that.
No doubt about it. You're greedy.
Look at
so
that.
I'm trying to cure it by keeping more of your money. No problem, right? It's
yeah, well, I love that when you keep more of my money. Oh, yeah, have it all for yourself. You already have a nice house, a great family, great income you got, or all these different jobs that you do yourself. I got to give you credit for that. You're a hard worker. I know you are. And your family and friends know that. But it's funny that you would call me, just once again, what, a greedy little Italian?
I think you're a greedy
Now,
little
why did you have to put little in there, or Italian?
Well,
why? Why did that have to become part of what you called me there, Doc?
Yeah, well, snowflakes like labels. I think that's what people classify each other as now. So I think that's what I hear the young folks out there call each other is by these labels. So isn't that what
That's
you want?
my label. Oh, thank you. So I've gotten a label from you now. I finally, you respect me that much that you give me a label.
Greedy little Italian Vito.
Great. Should that be my new nickname?
Greedy little
Italian Vito? Is that too much? That's too much, though, to say to get off the tongue, right?
Gliv. That's what you are.
A gliv. I'm a gliv.
No doubt about it.
A good old effing gliv, huh?
You're the president of the Gliv Society, man. No doubt about it. So, hey, if that's what you are, that's what you own. But I'm thankful that you gave me a chance to talk about it because any chance you get to talk about mental health, and all kidding aside, it's important. And I'm really sorry for the families of those that lost someone, especially to suicide. It's atrocious. It's awful, especially for those that are left behind. So, I know we make jokes and things like that, but in all seriousness, definitely seek out information regarding mental health any way you can if there's an opportunity. No doubt about it, right?
And trust me, too, I think everybody, no matter how bright, how positive they are, they deal with something in their life, right, that gets them down. I know I'm down sometimes. I bet you are as well. Everybody gets affected or, down on themselves to some degree at some point in life. So it happens to everybody. I don't think anybody out there is entirely positive, right, every single day of their life. Remember that, too.
And if you have further questions, if you didn't get a chance to listen to this all the way through, definitely message us at Detroit Podcast. You can direct message us anytime. We'll put you in touch with any and all agencies that can help you out. Or even, hey, if you're in the East Side, come stop by and have a conversation, and you can meet the person behind the podcast talking about this.
Awesome, Doc, and thank you for that. I think that was a really good discussion we had there, and I think that closes the book on this week's episode of Two Bad Hombres. Anything else you wanted to add before we get out of here, Doc?
No, Vito. Safe travels to you. I look forward to your report from Chicago. Definitely have a good time, and definitely give Nick my best. And I look forward to recapping with you next week regarding your time in Chicago. Props to you for continuing to secure sponsors for the podcast. You're doing great work, and I thoroughly enjoy chatting with you a couple times a week. Always a great time.
You know what? I'll stay safe in Chi-Town. You stay safe, Doc, and everybody else out there tuning in to this week's edition of Two Bad Hombres, stay safe as well. Adios, everybody.
Head spin, get fly. I got 6 jobs, I don't care.